Welcome back. I have Jay Hartenbach here, who is with Medterra, and they are one of the fastest growing CBD companies in the world, as well as the most CBD distributed products. Yep. Well, welcome. I hope I said that all right.
That's perfect. Thank you, Lisa, for having me on.
You're welcome. And tell me a little bit about what is Medterra? Who is Medterra?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. So Medterra is a CBD company, so we focus purely on CBD products. And we are focused on e-commerce products as well as selling into retailers. And a lot of what we do, I think, is a little bit different than the industry. We work directly with a farm in Kentucky to grow Medterra specific hemp, and then we formulate it into various products like CBD tinctures, which a lot of people are familiar with, all the way to supplements that take CBD and blend it with other ingredients to get an enhanced effect.
So let's talk about the cultivation process, because I'm sure that many of our viewers don't know anything about it. I wouldn't know where to start. First of all, why did you go outside of our state to do it? And then what is the process like to cultivate it, bringing it to distribution, and then obviously having people consume? Absolutely.
Well, in 2014, with the Farm Bill being signed in 2014, it made hemp fully legal for the first time really since 1927 or 1937. And so the first two states that were really quickly to adopt these hemp pilot programs were Kentucky and Colorado. So California now has a significant amount of hemp being grown in it, but that's relatively new. That's as of 2018 and 2019. So when we were looking to start as a company back in 2017, our two options were Colorado and Kentucky. And Kentucky really is a perfect place to grow it. Where Colorado has some ties into medical marijuana, Kentucky is only focused on hemp. And so we were getting the best genetics as well as the best farmers to grow the hemp for us.
So when you talk about growing hemp versus some of the other, well, obviously cannabis.
Yeah, sure.
What are some of the things that you need to be concerned with?
Yeah, I think it from two sides, right? So from a consumer standpoint, you need to be making sure where the hemp's coming from, right? That it's grown in the United States, so that there's able to have regulations and restrictions on how it's being grown. The quality and the content, so making sure that the product's tested. For us as a company, when we're evaluating different suppliers, we're making sure that they're GMP certified, right, so that they're familiar with good manufacturing practices, but also able to scale and grow with us. As a company, we started in my living room, and now we employ over 100 people, and we're selling throughout the world. Having partners that can grow with us is incredibly important, so that when we start selling in, we're not selling out.
So when you cultivate it, just kind of give me an idea of what does it take to do it?
Yeah, well, so I think the joke is that it grows like a weed, and there are some aspects of that are true, but it actually is a little bit difficult to grow because of the conditions and the seasonality. So this is a plant that's we plant right around May or June. So we'll start with these baby little plants called clones, which are basically seedlings of the mother plant, and we plant those in the fields in May and June, and then we harvest it in October. Right now, Medterra is growing about 1,000 acres of hemp, so it's a large operation. The process of it is relatively kind of set it and forget it, but there's a lot of room for error because of these strains being so specifically designed to grow CBD. They can sometimes be susceptible to environmental concerns. The other concern too is that your field in Kentucky, you can't grow with pesticides, right? And you have to grow it organically. So if you have a nearby farm that's maybe violating the rules, they could potentially ruin your crop, which is a concern as well.
Wow, and you come from the science background, so you know a lot about it. So what are some of the things that you found just by being in the science industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with CBD, there's a huge room for more research, right? And we've got preliminary research showing that CBD can be very effective from an anti-inflammatory standpoint, as well as being able to modulate serotonin levels in the brain, which is tied to anxiety and things like that. We're doing that research now with the Baylor College of Medicine on Medterra's products specifically to validate, where are they working, and more importantly, I think for the industry, where they don't work. And I think there's this confusion that CBD can fix everything. What it can do is fight, like I said, inflammation and help with some brain serotonin levels like anxiety. That's where CBD should be working and treating. If it doesn't fit within that realm, it really shouldn't be used, or at least not considered. And so I think clearing that up is going to be really important for the industry.
So speaking of that, we had Dr. Trin on earlier who talked a lot about the differences of CBD and THCs and the effects on the body. And then he also is part of the Physician CBD Council, which is helping spread the word, exactly what you're talking about. So tell me, what are some of your thoughts about what he said?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think he's right on it. So he's talking about the endocannabinoid system. So if we look at the endocannabinoid system, this really was something that was developed in the early, or understood in the early 90s and discovered. And if we look at from a human anatomy standpoint, that's a relatively, recent discovery, going back obviously with humans being studied, for the last thousands of years. And so with this endocannabinoid system, there's still a lot to be learned. But what we're seeing is that the body produces things called endocannabinoids, which are cannabinoids that the body's producing internally. And that, I think, catches a lot of people by surprise, that our body is actually producing similar compounds to CBD. Where that can get out of whack if your omega-3s are down, or you're not sleeping well, or you're stressed out, then need for phytocannabinoids can really, phytocannabinoids can really help with that. And so that's how CBD works and THC works, is by interacting with that endocannabinoid system, which is just a collection of neurotransmitters throughout the body.
So earlier we had Amy and Corey that talked a little bit about some of the challenges that they're having, primarily because they're on the THC side. Are you experiencing any challenges from maybe a black market situation with CBD?
So that's actually a really interesting point. So a lot of the challenges that THC and CBD are facing from a regulatory standpoint are very similar. So when we first started, banking was an issue. Being able to advertise and talk about CBD was an issue. We don't really have the black market concerns that THC does have, but there's still a stigma associated with CBD, which we're trying to fight against. And so it's interesting seeing how the two different industries with THC and CBD both evolving. I think they're both complementary in the issues that they're facing, and the two different industries are just tackling them in different ways.
Now, I mentioned earlier that you have a science background. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you actually came about the CBD product itself.
Absolutely. So my degree is in biomedical engineering. I always was really interested on the medical side, and actually at one point wanted to become a physician. And I think this desire of having some type of entrepreneurial effort just kind of steered me away from medical school. But my business partner, JP, in starting Medterra, was very familiar with the CBD industry and reached out to me saying, I believe CBD and hemp are going to be a very large thing, and we just need to potentially move on it. Do you know anything about it? And at that point, I had never heard of CBD, and so this is back in 2016. And so he gets all the credit for starting Medterra. And the first thing I did was do research, though. If I was going to put my name on or behind a company, I certainly wanted to be confident in the products that we were selling. And what we saw was this huge opportunity to be disruptive. There was preliminary science showing CBD could be incredibly efficacious, but people really didn't understand how it was working. But we knew that there was something there, and that's where we actually got started with it. And I was able to confirm that with my background.
Excellent, excellent. And let's talk a little bit about that, because many of our seniors are using opioids for pain. And you're certainly finding that with your products and CBD in general, they're moving away from those and using CBD for pain. Tell me what you're finding.
Well, I think there's this larger push to just health and wellness and self-care in the United States and even in the world. And so when we're looking at opioids or really just any type of prescription medication, I think there's a willingness now more than ever to look for a natural alternative, or at least to give something another try. And so I think that's perfectly aligning with obviously CBD becoming available. And so there's still a lot of research that needs to be done on where CBD can be helpful for pain and where maybe an opioid is necessary. But I think that willingness to actually try it and even have a conversation about it is exciting, and certainly leaning towards obviously making people a little bit more healthier.
Exactly. And then one last thing is, you mentioned that your products go through obviously quality assurance. What are some things that people should be looking for in products that they're going to be purchasing? Yeah,
absolutely. I actually just saw a really interesting article. So most CBD companies or most CBD products tested don't have the same amount of CBD that's in the bottle that's being claimed on the outside of the bottle. So to start, obviously the quality, making sure that that's there is really important. So for consumers that are looking to verify that, there's something called a certificate of analysis, or a COA. Every CBD company should be able to provide that. So if you're unsure as to whether the product is legitimate, calling the company or reaching out to the company should be able to provide that. In addition, not only making sure that the CBD quality or the content's there, but what are the other ingredients or the other compounds? Sometimes there can be solvents or pesticides, if they're growing it improperly, can be there. What has now happened in the industry, I think, recognizes that some consumers are willing to go to that extra length, but some consumers just want to look on the label and be confident. And so now there's a third-party system called the U.S. Hemp Authority. So Medterra was one of the first 13 companies admitted into that authority. However, now there's more companies entering it, and so you'll see an orange H on the side of the bottle. And so if the orange H is present on those products, you can be assured that that product's been third-party tested and the company's doing the right things.
That's excellent. Good information.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been very enlightening. I appreciate you taking the time.
Lisa, thank you for having me on.
All right. For more information, visit physiciancbdcouncil.com, orchidessentials.com, letsbloom.com, and medterracbd.com. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time to learn more about your health.